The question we're looking at in our lab is, how do we represent a 3D world in our brain? And particularly in our lab, we're interested in what happens when people move around, and so the brain has to take in information from a lot of different images, put those all together into a single representation of a 3D world. Why people haven't done this in the past is it's very expensive and difficult and complicated to set up a lab where you can move around and you can change the image, you can manipulate the image that people get in each eye as they move around, and responsive to the way that they move their head and walk around freely as they want. With that capacity to generate a world that's entirely fictitious, you can do all sorts of things that couldn't possibly be done in other kind of scientific experiments and vision experiments. So we know exactly what they're doing in this virtual environment and how well. It turns out that they make very big errors and very consistent errors.
One of the main things the lab is interested in is how you combine different sources of sensory information to build up a representation of your environment when you're walking through it. So how do you navigate when you go from place A to place B? Essentially, this is the VR headset we use. It's a binocular headset, so we have two screens here, one for each eye. We have the 14 cameras all around the perimeter of the room, and that allows us to track the position of the headset down to a kind of sub-millimeter level. One of the main benefits of using the VR is we can essentially do physically impossible things in the virtual world, which simply wouldn't be possible in the physical world. So in this experiment, what we do is at certain points during the experiment, we can dramatically expand or dramatically contract the room in size. The cool thing is people simply don't notice that at all. So you can scale the room hugely from kind of the size of a small room up to the size of a basketball court, and people remain completely oblivious.
In my experiment, participants are seeing 4 boxes at the start location. They then move to a new location, which is about 2 meters away from them. And on the trajectory to that new location, the boxes disappear from their field of view, so they can't see those boxes anymore. And they're asked to remember the location of those 4 boxes and then shoot at those boxes at the new location. There's a general belief that humans are building a 3D representation of the scene. And if that was true, then participants would have no problem updating the location. We can actually see participants are not doing it accurately. They actually make quite large and consistent biases.
I think where this is leading is to help us understand some of the really difficult questions about how we see a stable world when we're moving around. We move our eyes around, our head around. The images that the brain is receiving are changing rapidly all the time, and yet we see a perfectly sensible, stable world. The ideas in the past have been based on 3D reconstruction, but actually that would involve the brain doing extraordinarily complicated things. And I think we're moving away from an idea that what the brain does is something fantastically complicated which is easy to understand, towards a different view where the brain might do things that are easy for it to do, but really quite hard for us to understand.